Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Tutorial Grid. Now in this episode we're going to be focusing on a thing called color correction. Now color correction is probably one of the most important things you can possibly do to any composition you will ever work on. Without color correction, things just look kind of bland. Now we were fortunate enough to get some footage from a music video I shot, and they allowed us to use this for a tutorial. This band is called Dreamfast. It's the music video we worked on over at Avid. You can check those guys out at or the music video out at Avid Productions 479 at YouTube. So youtube.com/Avid Productions. You can kind of check that out, which is awesome. But yeah, that was just like Marcus Allen. And you can also download or buy their album here in April. They just got signed. And guess who helped them out with that? We did. You can also check them out at Dreamfast, Facebook. And while you're there, check out my newest project, Bi-Weekly Beauties. It's a photo deal where we take photographs of beautiful women in scandalous situations, as well as some regular ones, you know. It's kind of cool, but you'll also get some tutorials and possibly some free downloads from that. So if you go like it, make sure to put Tutorial Grid sent you, and you might get a free download. So, but anyway, back to what we are here to do. We are going to learn color correction. Now there are a ton of different ways to color correct. There's not one specific way that you should color correct, because face it, there's tons of different looks that you can go for. It's all about what type of look and feel you're wanting and how you're wanting your film to, well, look. One of the tools that I like to use a lot, and pretty much any compositor that I talk to all use the same type of tools, the basic one is curves. Curves is pretty much my fallback tool on pretty much anything, whether it is video footage, compositing, 3D animations on top of regular 2D footage, or pretty much any type of compositing tool. Curves is really one of the best and most basic tools you have. Now you can go towards, you can use Red Giant's plugins. Mojo, that's what it's called, Red Giant Mojo. Yeah, I don't use a lot of Red Giant stuff, but you can use that. You can also use what's called Color Finesse, I believe. Where is it? Yeah, you can use Color Finesse, but we'll get into that a little later. But for now, we're going to set up this project. Alright, so we have our curves tool, and first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to change this from 8-bit to 32 or 16. Now, I'll tell you the differences between all these. If you want to go ahead and click that 8-bit or 16-bit or 32-bit, whatever it says for you, most likely it says 8-bit, and you're going to hit this drop-down panel, and you have 8-bit, 16-bit, and 32-bit float. Now, 32-bit float is probably the top format that you can possibly use for color correction. It's going to be able to use a 32-bit spectrum, which most video footage isn't 32-bit unless you're using actual film stock. Which we are using digital, but we still want to use that 32-bit spectrum because it's being able to launch in some of those types of coding, or not coding, but the different colors that are actually in the digital film footage. You can also use 16-bit, which I would use if you're doing any type of compositing with other layers, because sometimes if you're using 32-bit and you're using like an optical flare layer, sometimes it won't render out correctly. So you can either use 16-bit or 32-bit. Since I'm not compositing anything on top of this footage, I am just doing color correction. I'm going to go ahead and do 32-bit. And go ahead and click OK. Now, since we already have our curves layer dragged over, I'll tell you probably what most everybody uses. Pretty much what we use, a little thing called crushing the blacks. Now, crushing the blacks means you're going to drag this little left layer over here. This is going to be your darkest of darks, which is going to be your black layer. And I notice we don't have a lot of contrast because this was how it was filmed. It was very light and very bright. Now, what I want to do is make this look more of like a morning setting with a little bit of yellow. Now, the easiest way to do that is, like I said, crushing the blacks, which we're going to bring this grayer level down, which this is our blackest of black right here right now, and we're just going to bring that down. So we're going to click and we're going to drag that over. Now notice what it's doing. It's getting rid of some of that, a little bit of that information, but you're going to get more of a contrastial look. Now we're also going to drag some of our midpoints down as well, make this look a little bit better, a little bit more even. Make it look a little bit more natural with that contrast, because if you have it like this, you just, that honestly looks terrible, unless that's the look you're going for. You just kind of bring some of these down, bring them up, comparing to what you're actually using. I actually can't give you this footage to download, unfortunately, because me and a couple other companies own it. So, but I can show you how to do this stuff. Also, we can change our midpoints, which is something I usually recommend doing. Having more of a higher contrast means you're going to make your film footage or your footage look a little bit more like standard film stock. Because standard film stock actually has a contrast ratio of, I think, 10,000 to 1. And normal digital film has about a 100 to 1 ratio. It also depends on what type of camera you're using as well. All cameras are different. I used a Sony AX2000, which is my personal camera, which I love. I love it a lot. It doesn't have the depth of field that I want, but I have an adapter for that if I ever want to use it. Anyway, moving on. But notice we can bring up our white layers, but that's going to blow it out a lot. So we're going to kind of bring it up just a tad. We're not going to bring up this layer, but we're just kind of bring it out just a tad bit to where it looks a little bit brighter. And then we're going to bring this down just a smidgen, because we don't want, we're kind of losing a little bit of data there. I don't really like that. And bring it down just a smidge, because we don't want to blow it out too bad. Well, actually, bring this down. You can bring down the contrast. I don't really like that. Bring that contrast down, bring this one down too, because I do want that morning kind of setting, but I do want the contrast still to be there. So what we're going to do is we're also going to add another curves layer to this. So go ahead and click back in curves and put that down underneath there. Now this is going, you're probably thinking, now why do you add two curves layer? Why can't you just, do it all in one curves layer? You can, but it's a little bit tougher. If you have two curves layers, you can actually adjust it and fine-tune it the way you actually want it to look. Now, whenever you place another curves layer on another one, it's actually looking at this layer and thinking this is the actual film stock footage. So you're actually going to be changing more midpoints instead of just changing your outboard points. So we're just going to kind of make this look a little bit better. Little smidgen. Now notice what this looks like before and after. Now I know it's just slight little touches and details, but whenever it comes to film, you want those little slight touches is all that matters. The more detail, the better. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do, since we kind of have this reddish look, we're kind of getting into some deeper saturations. We're going to go ahead and pop on a saturation layer. This is something I usually do on all my layers. I always do curves as well as saturations, because whenever you're dealing with your contrast ratio with your curves, you're going to mess with your saturations. You're going to get overblown reds and yellows and stuff like that. So we're just going to go ahead and bring down these reds. We don't want her looking like she's too blushed out here. So we're just going to bring those down just a tad bit. Now notice what that looks like before and after. Now notice what that looks like before and after. Just little slight touches that make this look a lot better. Now we also have a lot of blue going on, so I'm going to go to our cyans and our blues and just kind of mess with those just a tad bit. Now notice you can blow it out, or you can bring it down to where it's more of a regular type of tone, since they were kind of blown out. Then you also have your blues, and we'll just bring those down just a tad to where we have our correct white balanced layer. Right, now let's see what this looks like before and after. So this is our after footage, and this is our before footage. It's getting there. Alright, and we're going to go back into our curves layer again. I use a lot of curves. Curves are my friend. And we're going down to our blue layer. Now our blue layer, whoops, I hit that. Now our blue layer is on our curves adjustments, is going to change the contrast of only our blues. So, but it also changes color if you just go towards like your midpoints. So what we're going to do, since I want this to kind of be an early morning scene, I'm going to kind of bring our blues down in our midpoints. So just kind of click that middle and drag it down. And that is going to give us this early morning type of look. Really kind of warm. Really bring out those colors and those skin tones there. Bring those down a little bit. Bring in that color where that's washed out. Now that's going to bring all that color back where it was washed out before. Bring that in just a smidgen. I like that word, smidgen. What do you think about smidgen? All right, now that's looking really pretty good. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Alright, now that's probably one of the most simple ways of doing it with just the After Effects tools. Now there's another way you can do this, which I'm going to show you, which is using color finesse. But I'm going to show you what this looks like before and after. So before and after. It's looking pretty good. This is kind of how I want it. Now you can change the aspect ratio and all that stuff later, but this is just kind of a little quick type of way of showing you this. Now you can also go in here through and change this with what's called our levels tool. So you can go in with levels. I don't really like the levels tool, even though it does show you your histogram. I'm just not too big of a fan of the levels tool. I mean, you can change your gammas and all that stuff, which is pretty cool, but I think curves has a little bit more versatility with it rather than having to deal with different levels, I guess, as you will. But I mean, like I said, it's all about personal taste and what you're wanting to deal with. And, you know, I mean, it's all about how you want it to look and what you're used to working off of. But anyway, that's the levels tool. You can also do the same thing with your blues and your reds and your greens, and you can change all that stuff. You can kind of do about the same, but I like the curves tool. Anyway, enough about curves and levels. I'm going to get into another tool that's called color finesse. So just go in here and type color and F. So SA, color finesse. We'll just drag that on top of our layer here, and you'll go into full interface. Alright, now this is the interface. Now notice it has our histogram here, right there. It also has all the different color spectrums and your curves layers here. It'll actually show you in real time what you're doing to your footage, which is awesome if you're used to working with histograms and whatever other thing this is called. I can't really remember right now. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. But let's just show you the interface. So right here we have your results tool. This is going to show you exactly what's going on in real time. So if I was to change the shadows on this, you can bring the brightness down and you can show the results instantly. You also have your source, so if you want to go back to what it looked like before, you can do that. You also have reference, which just goes into your reference shots. You can also do split source, which is what I usually use. I go from split source to results. This will show you your before footage, your after footage, all in the same thing, but it kind of splits it in between. You can also do split reference if you have that reference shot compared to what you want to do on the next shot. Also your different Luma Ranges, which is awesome because this shows out almost partially blown out footage compared to your midtones and black tones, which you can change through your Luma Ranges right here. But we'll get into that in a separate little deal. Alright, we're going to go back to, let's do results. And let's kind of show you how to use this. Now, the reason why I really like Color Finesse is because it gives you more of a color spectrum details. It's a 32-bit plugin that allows you to change the midtones and saturations and everything of the shadows, midtones, highlight, in a bunch of different tools. So if you're using PAL footage, if you're using any type of footage, you have HSL, RGB, CMY, RGB, colors. You have levels. If you're using curves, you have the curvature levels, and you also have your HSL levels, which are pretty cool because you can change all the different saturations and stuff between all of that. Which, I mean, if you're wanting to blow your footage out, or if you're wanting to add a little bit of color, it's awesome. But, I mean, really, in one tutorial, there's a lot of information to be covered just about this one plugin. But just for the basics of having a tutorial, I'm just going to go tell you the basics about what I do. So, in my shadows, I usually turn up all of these because I want to change pretty much every single one of them. So, in the shadows, I always change my brightness, and I always turn it pretty much all the way down because I want to crush those blacks. I like my footage looking like film. And I usually change the contrast because, like I said, I like my contrast up pretty high, and you can also change your contrast level. Now, your contrast level, basically what that does, it receives more blacks or less blacks. So this is, the higher you go here, the more footage it's going to blow out and be black. The less it is, the less of the contrast ratio you're going to have. So I usually bring that up just a smidgen. There's that word again, smidgen. And that's looking pretty good. You can also change the different saturations between your black levels, which notice right around here. The more you saturate that, the little bit brighter it gets, but the more cartoony it looks. But I kind of want to bring that down just a smidgen. All right, there we go. Oh, and gamma. I gotta change that gamma. Bring some of that detail back. Just a tad. Bring it back there. Alright. And your pedestal is basically that contrast ratio. Again, it's kind of like the colors or the contrast center, but a little bit different. Kind of helps out with your gain problems if you have any. Alright, now we're also going to change the midtones. You can do the same. You can oversaturate this mother like a crazy mad fool, or you can bring it down kind of like a bleach pipe pass. Your midtones pretty much is basically where all your color spectrum is going to come from. So be very wary of what you're doing with that saturation, because once you kind of mess around with this, you can't really change a lot of stuff whenever you go back into any type of other color correction tools. Like if you were to go out of this plugin and save it and you wanted to change the saturation, you have to re-go back into this plugin. So try not to do a whole lot with this unless you are just going to be using this plugin. But for sake of doing this tutorial, I'm just going to be using this plugin for now. So I'm going to make this look more like a bleach bypass and really just kind of unsaturate this. And bring that vibrance down just a tad. Yeah. And bring it up, actually. Get some of those reds back in there. And brightness, I'm going to bring that down. And contrast, I want my tones to be a little bit more. And my pedestal. Okay. And RGB gain, like I said, I want this to be more of like a nighttime kind of scene, so I'm going to bring that gain down. Or not a nighttime scene, but more of a day scene. You can either bring it up and it can be blown out, or you can bring it down and really bring in those highlights, which we're going to change here in a bit. And then the pedestal, you're really getting a lot more detail whenever you bring it down a smidgen. But that looks pretty good to me. And then we'll go back into our highlights and we'll change our highlights. And I'll notice not a whole lot's being done other than our red levels on our highlights, because that's usually the red is what's going to be mostly in your highlights, because RGB, red, green, blue, that's where you're going to be looking. So bring those. I don't want to completely wash it out, but I want to make it look a little bit more natural. Bring that in. Brightness, and bring that down. Contrast, I want to make that look a little bit more natural. See, notice whenever I'm changing my contrast from my highs to lows, I don't want to blow this out like crazy, but I want the contrast to be there, but I also want it to look as natural as possible. Notice how smooth that's looking instead of having this really high-pitched kind of look like this, like what most YouTube videographers have. But let's bring that down and notice where all that detail's coming back. You're really getting that detail back. You're not getting as much contrast, but you still have the really nice blacks. You have all this coloring, and you're getting really smooth skin tones. And bring this contrast center. Bring some of that contrast back up with that center. And notice I'm getting those whites back, but I still have that smooth skin tone. All right. And then I completely mess it up by doing that. So I'll just Control Z. Alright. I kind of like the way that looks. And next I'm going to change that curvature layer. So go back down here through my curves and hit that. And I like using the HSL rather than my RGB. I mean, you can use it. You can just do the same thing and use our curvature level here and kind of put that color in there. But I think this one's going to be a little bit better because we can oversaturate like our yellows. Like if I want to put some yellow in here, I can add that yellow. I don't want my blue as much. Can really just, I love this plugin because you can just really mess with the color and how you really want it to look. But notice all those blues that are in here, we're getting a little bit more yellow or of a tone, getting more of a natural feel for what I was really going for. Whatever you're going for, do that. But this is kind of the way I'm wanting this to look right here. And then bring the brightness of those yellows up. And I want to blow it out. Make it look too unnatural. Then I'll go back in here and I'm just going to add that smidgen of yellow on top of that. Back down in here, change the saturations between red. Now that's looking pretty awesome. We have the nice little highlight, and that's just kind of like how to use color finesse and some basic curve tools. I mean, there is still a lot to learn, which I'll most likely be doing another tutorial about this plugin itself, but really the basic, I mean, this is really just the kind of the basic tools of color finesse and how to do all this other stuff. Now, to get out of this and actually save this footage here, you just click OK, or you can save like all the presets that you made and it'll go back into your settings. Oh, and there is one more thing I do want to show you guys. Where did it go? If you go into your gallery here, there's actually a bunch of different system presets you can do. Now, whenever you do save a preset, it'll go into your gallery. But your system presets are actually in the gallery, and you hit that down, and you can actually have these different film stock presets that you can mess around with. I don't usually use presets because it's kind of taking the creativity away from you, and you really can't learn by templates unless you reverse what is that called? Reverse engineer, basically. Reverse composite and figure out how they made that preset, which is good. That's kind of how I learned. But, I mean, you can mess around with some of these. If you really want to get a certain look, you can mess around and see what looks best for you. You also have different filters and gels and stuff like that. The processing's kind of cool, like the bleach bypass I sometimes use. But other than that, try not to use these. Unless you're really kind of in a bind. I usually set a lot of presets for myself, so if there's a certain look I'm going for and I know I already have it in my stock, just go there, save it. You'll thank me later for that one. But anyway, to get out of this plugin and keep these settings, just hit OK. And then I'll process your footage, and you are back and ready to roll in After Effects. Now, the one thing I don't like about this plugin is the fact that it does take a little while to render out, so each frame is going to render out a little slower than the next one. But look at the color. Look at that. You're getting the contrast back. You're getting all that stuff back. Oh, I love Color Finesse so much. Oh, but anyway, I'm going to go to bed now, possibly. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you guys have any questions, please leave comments below. I like hearing from you. And if you want to, send a video response to the video. If you have any tips on color correction, send a video response, man. I'd like to hear from you guys. I want to see what you guys do. So anyway, this is Cherokee at Tutorial Grid. Make sure to check out our company, Avid Productions 479, at Facebook and on YouTube. And you guys have a good day. Enjoy compositing.